quickly, before we get into today's video, I have a huge announcement to make. I will be heading back to the East Coast to nowhere else but the beautiful Baltimore Horseshoe Casino. It'll be happening on August 19th, which is a Saturday. If you guys want to get some more information, all you have to do is look in the description and or right here on your screen, you guys should be able to see a little flyer. There is all the information you'll need. There will be a phone number right here. You guys can call them and put your name on the board or say hi to Bagel. Bagel says hello to all of you folks. She hopes to see you there. Remember, that's going to be August 19th, which is a Saturday. We're going to be going from 2 to 7 p.m. I'll see you folks there. Super excited to be heading back to the East Coast. Meetup game of the ages. I hope to beat the last year record. I'll see you guys then. Make sure to sign up today. Enjoy the video. There's very few ways to top playing on Hustler Casino Live. Playing with Mariano and Rampage in a $25, $50, $50 big blind any with sometimes a $100 straddle. Yeah. Without further ado, let's hop into this very first hand of note. Getting things going off fairly quickly here, this ends up being a fun spot where there's a $100 straddle on immediately. What a way to get invited into the game. And I look down at Big Slick Paybe. I make it $300 to go. The small blind and the straddle make the call. We're going in position off to a flop that gives me top pair. It's a really dry board texture. Actions checked over to me, and I don't like my c-bet sizing here. I make it 700. Seems a little too big. Feels like my opponents can get away pretty comfortably with some random middling or bottom pairs. In reality, I think going a little smaller is probably better. Maybe I can induce somebody to raise, but in the real time, I get both players to fold. Either way, I'm going to take the win, and that gets us on the board. People are always asking me, how do you shot take? When do you shot take? How do you do good when you shot take? And there's a very simple answer for all of those questions. It's even going to come down to one word: win. It's that easy. All jokes aside, honestly, when you make these big shot takes, you got to just pray that the poker gods are on your side and you can play as good as you possibly can. This next hand is a good example of that, where I look down at pocket Kieran's baby. We make it $150 to go. The button decides to 3-bet to 600 and the action folds back to me. He has somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,500 chips. Quite a bit of money, but it is significantly less than what I have in my stack, which is a little more than 5K. So I put him all in here, hoping that he calls off after pretty much locking in 20% of his stack in the middle already. He does oblige. We decide to run out the board twice here. Is that what he would like to do? And here we go. Pocket Kings versus Ace Queen offsuit. The top board puts most of it to rest as it comes King 6-3. Turn is an 8 and the river's a 7. We've already locked up half this massive $7,000 to $8,000 pot. The bottom board comes out Jack 9-4. Turn is a 9 of diamonds. Dead to an ace is where my opponent lies, and the river is a 3 of hearts, baby. A massive, massive pot shipped in my direction. This session is starting off with an absolute bang. In this following hand, the stand-up game is in effect. I can't remember if it's for $100 or $200, but the point being, if you lose, you've got to pay a bounty to every single one of these players. That's fairly costly. With the action starting off on early position, he raises to $100 for the old min click. The cutoff decides to call, and I'm in the small blind with ace queen of clubs. We can go several ways. Obviously, just flatting here is not a viable option. Most of these several ways are going to come down to the sizing of my 3-bets. And after thinking about it for a little bit, I realized that going bigger is probably going to be the best idea. Taking the hand down without anybody playing back at me is probably awesome. And to be quite fair, if the under-the-gun player plays back at me, I'm comfortable to go with my hand, as our opponent here is definitely going to be one to be really aggressive with some spots. The cutoff player, like I said, is probably just going to have a snap fold no matter what happens. So I make it $700 to go, and it looks like my sizing did just the trick. As luckily for me, although it's painful for him, the early position player makes a fold, and the cutoff folds pretty quickly. We show our hand, and we take a seat in the stand-up game. All right, we're going to do something completely different that I've never done before, but I hope you guys like it, as it also has a giveaway built right into it. The first person that can guess this following hand exact with the suits and the exact hole cards wins the hand. Again, you have to get the suits right, specific to the card. So if I have the 5 of diamonds and the 3 of spades, you have to make sure that that is what I have. Spoiler alert, that's not what I have in this next hand. The only way you can win, though, is by commenting down what you think I have below, as well as subscribing and liking this video. So let's get right into this next hand where we're going to play completely blind. Under the gun is where Sashimi is at. There's a $100 straddle on, and she makes it $300 to go. The action folds to me in the hijack, and I decide, after a bit of thinking, to 3-bet this to 1100. The reason I'm going slightly bigger here is there's a lot of people left behind me to act, and I don't want to just have them creeping on in this hand by cold calling. Luckily for us, just Sashimi makes a call. We're going heads up in a 3-bet pot that comes out queen 4-3. Talk about dry. The action checked over to me. I think a small down bet makes a lot of sense. Going a third the size of the pot, what we can say is my entire range, is probably going to be a good idea here to set up for the old 3-barrel, whether it's for value or a bluff. I'll leave it up to you. We're going off to a turn card after she makes a call that comes at 10 of clubs. This does bring in a backdoor flush draw, which I think is pretty relevant to at least one of us in this holding. Sashimi decides to check it over to me, and I'm faced with a decision whether it is to bet, whether it is to check, and I decide to land on, once again, the old bet for 1800. Once again, going fairly small here, but I'm leaving myself the opportunity to go 1-for-1 pot-size river bet if I decide to do so, and she makes the call. Going off to the river here that has a lot of money already baked into it, and it comes out the Jack of Diamonds. Okay, that's a pretty interesting card. At this point, she checks it over to me. What would I want to do with value? What would I want to do with bluffs? It feels like there's only one answer to this question, and that is go for it all. I decide to jam it all in for $5,725. Putting maximum pressure on whatever it is that Sashimi has here, I think that she can easily have a hand like ace-queen here. She can easily have a hand even like pocket tens maybe. There is so much to be had out there. Even a hand like king-queen or queen-jack even. There's quite a few hands for her to have, and not so many for me to have, as we can do this old thing called polarizing ourselves when we make this big bet. And after a bit of a tank, Sashimi goes over her options, mulls it over before eventually deciding on a fold. Okay, well, like we said, the first person to guess my exact holding right, like and subscribe to this video, will get that $150 prize. See you in the comment section. Hey, it's been a little while since you've seen this bad boy, but we got the good old-fashioned OG trucker close to broke hat. If you guys are interested, there's currently a pre-sale going on. It's in the description down below, somewhere in there, closetobrokeLA.com. We got some sick hats. You can see them right here. Pretty nice. But we've got another hand to go over, and it's a pretty fun one, and I don't have any video for it. But it's important because there's some fun stuff that goes on here. There's a $100 straddle on, and I'm in here in late position with the old 7-3 of hearts. Not a good hand. Yeah, there's not much more to say about that. I raise it to 300. Hoodie Allen in the small blind, and then the big blind pair make the call. We're going off to a flop here that comes out queen 9-4. A little bit not great, especially because there's 2 clubs and not 2 hearts, but there is at least 1 heart, so there's some reason for us to blast off here. I decide to check it through, though, pick up some more equity, and maybe considering blasting off. The turn card is just what we needed. It was a 10, but it's a 10 of diamonds. So we pick up nothing here, really, at all. But we can start bluffing, right? With the action checked over to me, I throw a really small bet of 300, going about third of the size of the pot here. It's a cheap bluff for us, which is great on one hand. On the other hand, we're drawing like stone dead if we get called. Hoodie Allen makes a call from the small blind. We're going off to a river card that, yeah, doesn't change pretty much anything here. It comes a 5 of clubs. Doesn't change anything for me, but it does bring in the front door flush. And when Hoodie checks over to me, I think that I probably would have heard from a flush draw by this point. So, let's go for it. Why the hell not? This is Hoodie Allen. We used to listen to this guy's music when we were kids. Let's go for it, baby. I make it a bluff. I'm bluffing into Hoodie Allen. Who would have thought of it? I make it $500 to go. He doesn't think pretty long here, and he makes the call with Jack 8 offsuit. He turned us stone dead with the old Jack high straight. Luckily for us, we didn't lose any more money by blasting off any harder. I was considering going for a really super large size, and then I thought that it'd be a little too, polarized. Maybe betting a little bit on the smaller side would have looked a little more value heavy, but it doesn't matter when your opponent's got a straight. Just like that, we blast off over $1,000 into Hoodie Allen. GG's to you, sir.
Oh my God. Who's the noob now? Woo! Can't outplay me because there's no more streets.
So after punting it off there to Hoodie Allen, we find ourselves in another fun spot where Rampage is in middle position and he opens to 150. Sashimi, who's definitely been active and fairly aggressive, decides to 3-bet to 500 from the cutoff, and the action folds to me in the big blind. I look down at pocket jacks, pocket jiggities. This is a good old-fashioned tough spot to go over. I don't think just cold calling here has a lot of value. I definitely cap myself. I'm going to be in a tough spot, out of position for the entirety of the hand. If that's going to be the case, I feel like putting more money in the middle right now is the best idea. If we get 5-bet shove, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But at this point, I'm 4-betting for value. Sashimi is going to be in position, attacking almost anyone that opens here. So I decide to put her to the test, and I 4-bet to $1,500. Rampage pretty quickly gets out of the way, and now with the action back to Sashimi, she ends up folding. Once again, taking a pretty sizable pot down pre-flop, or at least for me and what I'm accustomed to, without any backfire.
What was it?
It was jacks.
For this following hand, we're playing the good old-fashioned PLO double board bomber. My hand is not a whole lot good, but it turns to a whole lot great when the flops come out, and we end up making a freaking nut straight on the bottom board, and on top board we flop bottom 2 pair. Action checks to Ethan, who throws out a massive bet of $1,000, technically over the size of the pot. In pot limit Omaha, this is not really a real thing, but hey, it's his game. We're going to go with it. The action folds to me here from the small blind, and I finally look down at my hand, and it's a pretty good hand. I decide to raise it up to $3,000. Action folds back to Ethan, who cannot put enough money in the middle. He says he wants to go all in. Considering I have the nuts on one board and a pretty darn good hand on the other board, I beat him into the pot nearly. There is so much money into the middle, it's hard to even comprehend. This pot has ballooned up to quite the sizable one for the day, and we've got a good old-fashioned free roll. Oh no! Ethan shows pocket 10s, queen 7. The queen and the 7 are suited to the club. Oh no! Luckily for me, he does in fact have 3 clubs, which makes it again 1 out, less likely for him to hit his clubs, but he has us in absolute dire straits on the other board. The top board comes out the 8 of hearts, giving me a boat, but giving him a better one. The bottom board comes out the 7 of diamonds. Still a full-on sweat here. The top board comes out the deuce of hearts. Dealer one-time red card. The river on the bottom board comes out the deuce of diamonds. Oh yeah. Whew, that was a scary one. All of my money was in the middle there. Tough one, but we end up battling out, clawing out just somehow. To finish things off tonight, we have another beautiful visit from our lovely friends, the Pocket Kirans. I decided to raise it up here under the gun to 150. Only the big blind calls and the middle position player calls. We're going 3-ways off to a flop that comes queen to 4-3, all hearts. I do remember that I have the king of something that's red, but I don't know if it's a diamond or a heart. Doesn't matter to me a whole lot. I'm going to be betting for value here, as well as some equity denial. We can get a bunch of value from flush draws. I make it 250. Unfortunately for us, just as the night started, we have an overpair or a big hand here, and we get 2 folds. No more money to be had. Can't complain though. Our session that started off with a bang ended with one as well. Cannot complain about it. A massive thank you to Mariano and Ethan for hosting and inviting me and allowing me to play in the private game. A very special day, closed out in a very special fashion.
Oh, me, dude. Just
I can do this with my eyes closed. It's too easy.
And that is going to bring our session to a close. Again, massive shout out to Mariano and Ethan. If by some grace of God you follow this channel and not them, please do us both a pleasure and show some love and support. We were into the game for 5, and the game got pretty wild. Straddles were on. It was pretty ridiculous. We ended up cashing out for like 12,000 pretty much, so pretty solid win. If I say so myself, I'll definitely take that every day of the week. We played for about 3.5-4 hours. To be quite honest, there was a lot of garbage hands. Played that massive pot against Ethan in the bomb pot. Lucky to have chopped that one, I guess, even though I flopped the nuts on one of the boards. This guy did okay.
Deuces.
I did okay. I will take it. I've been down swinging, so anytime you go up, it's like a freaking miracle, right? Either way, that's enough of me talking to you guys. Sorry there was not a bunch of hands, just to be quite honest. I was just mostly enjoying my time and not vlogging a great deal. A couple hands I didn't get on film. I think the only one that was important was with the one I did with Hoodie, and I ended up just telling you guys all about it anyway. So here's our vehicle. We have a 4-hour drive back to LA. Long day of work for me. Love you guys all dearly. I'll see you guys soon. Stay happy, stay healthy. More importantly, we're going to the tables, y'all. Deuces.
With my eyes closed,